Are you aware there is an ongoing war between China and Nigeria?
Is China doing this because they love Nigeria, or it's a way of quiet control?
The Trump administration must respect Nigeria's sovereignty.
Chinese are technically and tactically buying up our ancestral land.
January 17, 2025, Nigeria made a decision to send shockwaves through Washington and Beijing.
Nigeria and China have just struck a trade deal, cutting out the US dollar.
And just days before this happened, Donald Trump stood in front of the camera and said something so wild.
And if the Brics nations want to do that, that's okay, but we're going to put at least a 100% tariff on the business they do with the United States.
So here is Nigeria, caught between America and China, drowning over 144.6 trillion naira of debt, with a currency that crashed from 460 naira per dollar to over 1,500. The question everyone is asking is, does Nigeria even have a choice anymore? Between China and US, which of their relationship will favor us more? Or are they all scavengers? Let's find out as you stick with me, because what I'm about to show you will change how you see Nigerian future.
It's not a comfortable thing. It's a very serious situation.
First, you need to understand why everyone wants Nigeria. This isn't just some small player. Nigeria is Africa's largest economy. We have the biggest population on the continent of Africa. Over 220 million people. That's more than the entire population of Russia. More than Germany, France, and UK put together. And when you have that many number, you have something every global power wants. A market, a massive market, growing young market that's going to need everything. Infrastructure, technology, energy, food, medicine, everything. And no doubt, China sees this clearly. In the first 3 months of 2025 alone, Nigeria imported over 4.6 trillion naira worth of goods from China. That's just one quarter. Over a full year, we are talking about $21.9 billion in trade between Nigeria and China. That's 8% of all China's trade with Africa. Let that sink into your head. One country, 8% of China's entire African business. And China isn't just selling things to Nigeria, they are building Nigeria. The Lekki Deep Sea Port, Chinese built, Chinese funded. This port is expected to generate over $360 billion over the next 45 years and create 170,000 jobs. That's not just a port, that's a game changer. Then there is Abuja to Kaduna Railway, the Lagos to Ibadan Railway, the Abuja Water Supply Project that China finished in June. That project supplies over 480,000 cubic meters of water every single day. They're even talking about building African first local insulin production facility right here in Nigeria. You see what's happening? China isn't just investing money, they are planting themselves deep into Nigerians' bones. But here is where it gets complicated. Why China is building all of this? The United States is still Nigerians' largest foreign investors. Most of the American money in our energy sector, oil, gas, things Nigerian economy has always depended on. We have this strange situation. Nigeria trades more with China, but America has more money invested in Nigeria, most importantly in industries. Two giants, two different plans, one country stuck in the middle. And the people managing this, let me introduce them to you. There's Yun Dahai, the Chinese ambassador to Nigeria. He went on X, formerly Twitter, and publicly said that China is ready to keep helping Nigeria fight terrorism. That's not just talk. That's Chinese saying that they are here for the long run. Then you have Yusuf Tuga, Nigerian foreign minister. He's trying to keep both America and China happy while Nigeria figures out what to do next. And at the top is President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He inherited an economy that is practically on fire, and he has put it out while two superpowers are shouting different instructions from opposite sides. So yes, Nigeria is the prize everyone wants. The question is, at what cost of being wanted badly? In this case, let me tell you how Nigeria got to this point, because this didn't happen overnight. Here is a number for you. Between 1999 and 2021, Nigerian federal government has borrowed increasing amount of 658%. It went from 3.5 trillion naira to 26.91 trillion naira. You might think, okay, that's bad, but maybe it stopped there. It didn't. After the 2023 election, Nigeria's debt exploded. It jumped from 49.85 trillion naira to over 134.30 trillion in less than 2 years. That's not normal growth. That's the crisis on fast forward. And here's the thing about debt. It doesn't sit there quietly. It demands to be paid. On June, Nigerian owed $15.12 billion in something called Eurobonds. That's 35% of our total external debt. And if you're wondering what Eurobond is all about, it's basically Nigeria borrowing money from private investors at high interest rates because we need cash immediately and couldn't wait. So what happened when all of this debt is due? In the first 9 months of 2024, Nigeria spent $3.6 billion just paying interest and debt. That's over 39.8% increase from the year before it. And here's the crazy thing about it. Over 80% of government revenue now goes to paying debt.
80%. That's actually huge if I say. That means if Nigeria collects 100 naira in taxes, oil money, fees, whatever, 80 naira is immediately gone. It's already promised to someone else. That leaves only 20 naira for everything else. Healthcare, education, roads, security, and every other thing. You see the trap we're talking about. Every naira Nigeria earns isn't really ours anymore. It belongs to the people we go to. And who are those people? China, for one. All these railways, power plants, and ports is mentioned. Nigeria didn't pay cash. China loaned us the money to get it happening. Then there's the IMF and the World Bank. They give Nigeria what they call a refund loans, which is a nice way to say, I will give you money, but you must exactly do what I tell you to do, especially in your environment. And then there is a private investors who bought those Eurobonds. They are waiting for Nigeria to pay them back with interest. And speaking of payment, in 2024, Nigeria had to pay over $500 million to settle one Eurobond. Then another is $400 and something million as the first payment on a $3.4 billion COVID-19 loan from the IMF. That's nearly $1 billion gone just like that. So here is what you have to understand. Nigeria is borrowing money to pay back money you already borrowed. It's a debt trap. And when you are in debt, you lose power, you lose options, you lose the control you have. And that's when the superpowers see their chance to own you fully. Let me show you how China and America are actually fighting over Nigeria, because this isn't anything anymore. Let's start with China. By 2012, China already owned over 13 joint business ventures in Nigeria. The power, oil and gas, and technology. That was over a decade ago. Since then, they have only gone deeper. You already heard about the infrastructure, railways, ports, water supply. But here's what makes China's plan too smart. They are not just building things Nigeria wants. They are building things that Nigeria desperately needs. Take the Abuja water supply for example. Before China finished it on June, millions of people in Abuja didn't have reliable clean water. Now they do. And every time someone in Abuja opens a tap, there is a small reminder that China built this. That's an influence you can't just take away. And note that China is not stopping anytime soon. Right now, they are discussing building the first local insulin production facility in Africa. If that happens, Nigeria won't need to import insulin anymore. That's great independence. That's powerful. But this is also important. China is slowing down. Nigeria's security situation has gotten worse. Boko Haram in the north, bandits in the northwest, separatist tension in the southeast. And when things become unstable, investors get scared. Even Chinese investors do. So, while China is still here, billions of dollars for ongoing projects are now uncertain. China is asking itself, is Nigeria still worth the risk? Meanwhile, the United States is playing a completely different game. In early 2025, Trump stopped all USAID programs for 90 days. Just pause them. And if you know anything about USAID, you know it funds health programs, education, agriculture, things that keep millions of Nigerians alive. So when Trump pressed pause, it sent a clear message. American priorities have changed. Even though the US is still Nigeria's largest foreign investors, most of that money is stored in oil and gas. But American cultural and political influence, it's fading, no doubt. It's just a geopolitical rivalry and contest for the soul of Africa. China collects more from Nigeria than the US gives. So you have China building infrastructure and getting deeper into Nigeria's economy, while the US is cutting in and making threats. And then Nigeria is something shocking. A gamble. On January 17, 2025, Nigeria officially became Brics partner country. Now, if you don't know what Brics is all about, let me explain quickly. It started as Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Over time, Brics has grown, and right now, the Brics countries represent 46% of global GDP and 55% of the world population. That's more than half of everyone's on Earth. And Nigeria just joined them, not as a full member yet. Partner status is like being in the waiting room, but still a huge signal. Now, here's what Nigeria gets from this. Firstly, access to the new development bank. It means loans without the usual Western condition attached. Secondly, trade opportunities. Brics countries want to trade using local currencies instead of the US dollars. Right now, close to 90% of international trade uses dollar. That gives America massive control over the global economy. Brics want to take that control. And thirdly, this one is actually huge. it has been pushing for Nigeria to get a permanent seat on the UN Security Council. Not with veto power, but still. A permanent seat will give Nigeria a voice in global decision we have never had ever before. So on paper, joining Brics makes a total sense. Nigeria gets money, trade options, and political power. But here is the problem. Remember the Trump's threat: 100% of tariffs on any Brics country that tries to replace the dollar. That's not just a thought. If Nigeria starts trading oil in yuan or naira instead of dollars, America could put massive tariffs on Nigerian exports, and Nigeria's economy, which is already struggling, cannot survive it at all. So Nigeria's foreign minister, Yusuf Tuga, came up with a plan. He calls it non-alignment or multi-alignment, which basically means Nigeria is betting we can play both sides, keep our relationship with America and Europe, keeping our ties with Brics, benefit from the both sides. It's a gamble, a huge one for that matter. Because here is the reality: Nigerian infrastructure is still poor, the economy is still struggling, corruption is still everywhere, and now we are trying to balance relationship with two superpowers who hate each other. One expert warned that Nigeria's weakness could turn us from a partner into a battlefield. There's a literally scenario called failed states 2030. That explains what happens if Nigeria can't fix our problems. And Emeka in Beijing says something I can't forget. Until we sanitize our house, we will continue to be a pawn on the chessboard of global powers. A pawn. You heard that correctly. That's what Nigeria is becoming. Not a player. Just a piece that gets moved around by people with small powers. The thing is, if Nigeria can be honest about our debt, diversify our economy, and strengthen our institution, then this competition between superpowers doesn't have to be a trap. It will be an opportunity, because when two giants are fighting over you, you have a leverage, you have options. The question is, will Nigeria use them? So guys, thanks for watching. Tell us what you think about this whole matter. Do you think Nigeria should stick with the US or the Brics? If you love the truth, I want to be part of the truth. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, bye for now.